Have you ever wondered what happens when one small act of kindness opens the door to an entire world you never expected to see? Imagine a young woman, barely scraping by, quietly asking for leftover food, not out of entitlement, but sheer necessity. Now imagine the man who saw her, not as a problem to be ignored, but as a story waiting to be heard. This is the story of Maria, and the day everything changed. For her, and for a man who had everything yet saw very little. Maria was one of those people you pass by every day without a second thought, a petite figure, worn clothes, eyes heavy with exhaustion and quiet pain. She worked at a bustling downtown cafe in a city where skyscrapers touched the clouds, but didn't quite reach the hearts of everyone who lived beneath them. Her shifts were long, her pay barely enough to cover rent, and on some days there was barely enough food on her own plate. It was late on a cold autumn evening when the cafe was closing. Most customers had left hours ago. Maria's eyes darted toward the kitchen, hoping to salvage any leftovers before they were thrown away. She didn't ask for much, just a small box of what remained, a humble request she whispered to the kitchen staff. It wasn't about greed. It was survival. Unbeknownst to Maria, the CEO of the company that owned the cafe, Mr. Alan Pierce, had stayed late that evening for a meeting. He noticed her quietly collecting the scraps of food with a kind of gentle desperation, so unlike the usual hustle of the business world he was accustomed to. Instead of walking away, Alan found himself following her after she left the cafe. He watched as she navigated dimly lit streets, carrying that small box close to her chest like it was a treasure. They arrived at a tiny apartment complex tucked away behind cracked walls and flickering street lamps. The front door creaked open to reveal a cramped, worn space, barely warmed by a small heater that hummed softly in the corner. But what shocked Alan was not the poverty. It was the spirit inside. As Maria stepped inside, the room lit up with warmth, not just from the heater but from the family waiting for her. A little boy, no older than 5, ran to her, throwing his arms around her waist. "Mom," he exclaimed with a smile that stretched from ear to ear, melting away the exhaustion from her face. That moment hit Alan like a thunderclap. Here was a woman working tirelessly just to keep her family fed and safe, a world away from the polished boardrooms and glossy skyscrapers he inhabited, and yet there was a love so raw and powerful that it transcended the hardships. The next morning, Alan couldn't stop thinking about Maria. The image of that small box of leftovers and the small boy's joyous smile haunted him. He realized that kindness doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with simply noticing someone's struggle. He returned to the cafe, but this time, his eyes sought more than profit margins and customer satisfaction scores. He wanted to understand the people who made his business run. Their stories, their challenges, their dreams. Alan found Maria again, this time with a purposeful smile. He handed her a small envelope. "This is for you. It's more than leftover food," he said softly. "It's a promise." With that, he arranged a meeting with local organizations to provide Maria and others like her with access to resources, food assistance, job training, and affordable childcare. He pledged to change the culture of the company, to create a community where no one felt invisible. Maria's world began to shift. The small acts of kindness she once thought were invisible became stepping stones for a brighter future. She found a new job opportunity. Her son thrived in daycare programs she never imagined possible, and the cafe became more than just a workplace. It became a symbol of hope. But perhaps the most profound change was in Alan. Watching Maria's resilience and the power of simple kindness transformed his view of success. It wasn't measured in profits alone, but in the lives touched and the hope restored. Can you imagine how he felt witnessing that transformation? From boardroom power plays to standing in a small apartment, sharing in a moment of pure human connection? It's a reminder that when we open our eyes and hearts, kindness has the power to break barriers, change lives, and rewrite destinies. This story is a powerful testament that hope can be found even in the most unexpected places. And it all began with a small, humble request for leftover food. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like, comment your own kindness stories below, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. And if you want to see how one more act of kindness sparked an incredible journey, watch the next video linked right here. Because every story is a chance to believe again, in hope, in kindness, and in the power of one. Remember, sometimes, the smallest gestures create the biggest change. What act of kindness will you start today?